Arsen Ostrovsky is a Middle East foreign policy and political analyst based in Israel and joins us now from Tel Aviv. Great to have you on the program. So how close are they to reaching an agreement?
How close? I guess we'll know soon enough. They've got until tomorrow night to reach an agreement. They've been close before, but there have been a number of issues holding them apart. The president, Benjamin Gantz's mandate to form a coalition had expired on Sunday evening. The president did not grant him an extension of 14 days, as is normally customary, nor did he say that he would provide the mandate to Netanyahu to try and form a coalition. But he warned them both that given the circumstances, if they could not reach a unity agreement, he would send the mandate straight to the Knesset, which would then have 21 days to elect someone to try and form a government, and they would have 14 days to do so. From all accounts, it would seem that they are very close. The main issues which they had relating to one primarily being the judiciary and the appointment of judges has been more or less resolved, and also right now they're discussing the other main issues being what would happen in the event that the High Court would rule that the Prime Minister, who's under a number of he's been indicted under a number of charges, what would happen if he were not allowed to form a coalition? But it would appear that the two sides are close on this occasion. We will know soon enough. It's important to note that as of this evening, even though they have until Wednesday night to try and reach an agreement, this evening come sunset, which is just in a few hours, Israel will close down for the holiday of Passover and will reopen again on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. So they don't have a lot of time, really not a lot of time to try and finally resolve this and sign an agreement.
And Arsen, the optics of this, in a televised debate, Benny Gantz said, Netanyahu, this is our moment of truth. Israelis are expecting us to put aside our differences and work together. Incredible showmanship. But can they really, given that window that they have right now that you mentioned?
Look, I mean, one of the other, they're both Netanyahu and Gantz made public televised statements last evening. It's interestingly to note that neither took an aggressive tone against the other, which was very much predicted, indicating that they are quite close. Had they taken an aggressive tone, things would have been quite different. Interestingly, one of the other lines from Benjamin Gantz's speech was when he said that history will not forgive us if we fail. And I think the Israeli people in many ways will not forgive them. Two elections was unprecedented. 3 was definitely, but to go to a 4th election and in the midst of
this pandemic,
as we are, would be, I think virtually criminally negligent on both their ends. But they're also very well aware of, you're talking about optics, and the polls at the moment are very much in favor of Netanyahu, who, if the elections were to be held today or in coming months, he would be a major winner. We saw that in the process of the negotiation between the two. His Gantz's Blue and White Party had fallen apart, so he would be in a quite awkward position. So if elections were to be held, it would appear that Likud and under Netanyahu would win a considerable majority. But that said, both have something to lose and something to gain, and if they do reach this unity agreement. But there will need to be compromises on both those ends. But it would appear that they are closing that gap, and hopefully, if not this evening, then at some point on Wednesday before the midnight deadline, we will have more news.
And Arsen, while I have you here, a quick question about how is Israel managing with the coronavirus pandemic in Israel and also the occupied Palestinian territories?
Look, in Israel, I think, it's interesting that the government has very favorable ratings, as does Netanyahu, specifically in terms of efforts leading the response. Israel has one of the lowest mortality rates. There have been a number of research studies showing that they're very strong in some respects drastic steps that Israel took to try and lock down the country, to try and close down the country, our social distancing guidelines, the employment rules, that really had an important effect to try and help, as we know, the catchphrase is flattening the curve. But there is a question in terms of how long this can go on. Obviously, it's having a very strong impact on the economy. Unemployment is now at 25%, having been at about just under 4%, which was a record at the beginning of the year. So obviously this cannot continue indefinitely, but at the moment there is, I think, quite overwhelming support in the way the government is handling this, and specifically given that the relatively low number of deaths, which is I think at about 119, 120 at this point. But again, the longer this goes on, I suspect that situation might change. But at this point, I think the perception is that the government and the authorities, the health ministry, are doing a strong job in terms of coping and dealing with the situation.
All right. Arsen, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Arsen Ostrovsky, and a happy Passover in advance.